Today we are checking out the RealYou foam cannon. This is a brand new foam cannon design here in 2025, and what I want to see is this the best new budget foam cannon on the market, and is this something that could replace a traditional foam cannon of choice? So let's not waste any time, let's jump straight into it. Yo, what is up guys? Jamie from Jamie's Detailing. Recently, I was given this guy from my next door neighbor. Now, my next door neighbor is a huge detail enthusiast, a hobbyist, if you will, and he absolutely loves detailing. And just like me, and just like us, he's always trying different new detailing products that come out on the market, and we're also always talking detailing and talking shop. So he's definitely an awesome neighbor to have next door, but he recently gave me this guy right here. This is the RealYou foam cannon that just came out maybe within the last couple of months, and this is my very first time checking out this foam cannon. So I actually have zero attachment to this foam cannon. I didn't even pay for it, and if I really don't like it, I could always just give it right back to my neighbor, or I could even just give it away or give it to somebody else who I think would need it. So I actually have zero attachment to this thing. So I'm gonna give you guys my actual honest opinions on this foam cannon, and we're gonna check it out today and see if this is something that may replace my regular foam cannon or my MTM Hydro foam cannon that I would traditionally be using for my client work. First things first, guys, let's go over what this comes with and what it comes with in the box. So when you guys first get this thing, it comes in just a plain old white box just like this, nothing special at all, but it comes with this guy right here. This is the RealYou foam cannon, and honestly this part of the foam cannon looks pretty traditional to what we would typically see from your run-of-the-mill, you know, budget or even higher end foam cannon. This definitely feels like a quality piece, and it is really nicely put together for literally being under $20. I think right now on Amazon this thing's like $16.99 on sale, but it works really nice. You guys can actually remove the back of your foam cannon unit just like this, or remove this quick connect piece, and right in here you guys have access to your orifices that I like to call them. These are just the what actually meters how much water is coming in and out, or how much water can flow through this foam cannon. So it actually comes with two of these, but I'll show you guys the extras that it comes with in just a second. So besides this little back part screwing off, it is also really easy to service, because this part right here just screws right off, and now you guys will have access to your little foam filter in there. So this is what actually helps produce the foam inside of your foam cannon, and that is just this little screen, which you get an extra one of these little silver screens in the kit. So we're gonna go ahead and put that guy back in there, and this fits together really easily. It just screws right back together. Get it nice and tight, and you're good to go. Now this foam cannon does have some adjustability, so not only can you guys rotate the actual spray pattern, so whether you guys wanted a horizontal spray pattern, or you guys wanted a vertical spray pattern, or you guys wanted anywhere in between, you guys can twist this guy and it will spray at the angle that you guys want. Now along with that adjustment, you guys also have your traditional fan adjustment. This is going to adjust how wide or how much of a beam, I guess you could say, the actual spray pattern will be. So if you guys have this all the way open like this, or you guys have these two little blades in here all the way open, it's going to be like a beam of foam, and if you guys have it all the way tight, it's gonna be like a real big fan, fan of a foam. So depending on how you guys have this, you guys can, you know, adjust the actual width of your foam cannon, the width of the spray pattern, and you guys can also adjust the actual angle of that spray pattern. So all the adjustments that you would typically have on your regular foam cannon. So that is super, super nice. Now, along with this body itself, it also comes with this guy right here. This is your tank. So instead of getting your typical 1,000 milliliter tank, this one only comes with a 100 milliliter tank because you guys actually don't need to dilute the chemical that you're putting in here. Now, before we get to it, you can dilute your chemicals, but we're gonna get to that in just a minute when I get to the actual dilution ratios of this thing. So that is the RealYou foam cannon itself, but you also get a couple little extras in the box. And with the box, you guys are gonna get this little bag, and inside of this little bag, you guys are going to get a second proportioning valve, which I'm gonna show you guys that really quick. Your proportioning valve is actually what meters how much chemical is going to be getting sucked into your foam cannon. So when you guys have this tilted up like this, it allows your chemical to actually flow into the foam cannon and out. But inside of here, you guys actually are going to have a little proportioning valve right here. And this is what actually is going to meter how much chemical is allowed to go into your foam cannon and out of the front to actually produce your foam. So depending on which one you guys have in there will change up what your guys' dilution ratio is. Now, along with that, you can also change your dilution ratio on this particular foam cannon by changing your orifice right back here. And it does come with a larger orifice. The one that it comes with pre-installed in here is about a 0.4 millimeter orifice, so much smaller than your typical orifice that you guys would be using on your average foam cannon. Most people like to use a 1.1 millimeter orifice, but this comes with a 0.4 millimeter orifice and a 0.6 millimeter orifice inside of this bag. Now, along with your secondary orifice and your secondary proportioning valve that comes in this bag, or your extra proportioning valve, you guys are also going to get a spare little wire filter right here, and this is what actually helps produce and create that foam for you guys. And you guys are also going to get a little Allen key to help take in and out your proportioning valve. Now that we actually went over what this guy comes with inside the box, let's actually talk about how it works, because it works a little bit differently than your traditional foam cannon. Now, this is one of my absolute favorite traditional style foam cannons. This is my old school little MTM Hydro. They do have an updated version of this, which I would recommend over this, just because it has a nice large mouth on there to fill up your chemicals. But this is the classic version, and as you guys can see, all foam cannons pretty much work very, very similarly. They all have a straw inside of them, and this is your main foam cannon body right here. So what this does is, as water is passing through this foam cannon body, it actually creates a vacuum or a suction inside of your foam cannon, container. So that suction is then going to suck up the chemical that you guys have in here, and typically you would dilute the chemical that you put in here. So let's say you put a 10-to-1 dilution ratio inside of your foam cannon. Most foam cannons have anywhere between a 10-to-1 and a 15-to-1 dilution ratio. So you can actually multiply your dilution ratio times the actual what it proportions out of the foam cannon itself. So you're typically getting, like, if you put, let's say, 100 milliliters in this guy, you're typically getting, let's say, 100-to-1 dilution actually coming out of the front of your foam cannon. So if you guys followed me there, it's basically just a simple suction that sucks up the chemical from the bottom of this jug, from the bottom of your foam cannon jug right here, or the bottom of your foam cannon container. it creates that vacuum or that suction and spits out the water and chemical combination as a foam out of the tip of your foam cannon. Now the RealYou foam cannon works very, very similarly, but instead of being facing this way and using a straw, it actually just uses gravity to actually suck and create that vacuum as the water is passing through the foam cannon. So as the water passes through, it creates a vacuum in here, sucks the chemical through. Depending on what proportioning valve you guys have inside of here, it is going to dilute that chemical and spray it out the front of this foam cannon as a foam. So really, really simple design. If you flip it upside down, it'll stop foaming, and if you flip it back right side up, it'll start foaming again. So really, really interesting how you can kind of tip it upside down, it'll stop foaming. You guys could also then undo your container, fill it back up, whatever you guys want to do. But that is how this guy works in comparison to your traditional foam cannon. So really cool design. It works very, very similarly, but it works a little bit differently because it doesn't have a straw in there, and the dilution ratio is actually changes depending on what proportioning valve you guys put in here. So now that you guys know how this guy works, let's go over the actual dilution ratios depending on what combination of proportioning valve and what combination of actual orifice you guys put in the back of this guy. So depending on the orifice that you guys have in this guy and depending on the proportioning valve that you guys put in will change the actual dilution ratio of your full strength chemical that you guys are typically going to be putting inside of your reservoir. So super, super cool, but let's go over all the dilution ratios. Last night, I actually tested all of these out to see the exact dilution ratio that I'm getting with my specific pressure washer. So depending on the pressure washer that you guys are using will actually change these numbers, but I figure it is a good point of reference for you guys to actually go by, just going by my numbers and what I got from doing these quick tests. So for the very first test, I wanted to see what this guy does out of the box. So with the original orifice that comes in here and with the original proportioning valve that comes in here. So the original orifice that actually comes in here is the 0.4 millimeter orifice, and the original proportioning valve that comes in here I was not able to measure. So I'm not 100% sure what the size of the proportioning valve is, but with that combination, I was getting 100-to-1 as my dilution ratio coming out of the front of the foam cannon. So when you guys have when you guys have full strength chemical in here, it's gonna end up diluting that 100-to-1 with the original proportioning valve and the original orifice in the back. Now for the second test, I actually swapped out the proportioning valve to the one that comes in the bag. So once I actually swapped it out to the one in the bag, I actually lowered my dilution ratio to 60-to-1, so a much stronger dilution. So with the original orifice in the back and the second or the extra proportioning valve in here, I was getting 60-to-1. So after doing that, I actually left the extra proportioning valve in here and swapped back to the original orifice. When I ran that test, we were also getting around 60-to-1 as our dilution ratio. And then after that, I left in the extra proportioning valve and I swapped in the 0.6 millimeter orifice into the back of here. And with that combination, I was getting 40-to-1 as our dilution ratio. So depending on what combination of proportioning valve you guys go with and what combination of orifice that you guys go with in the back of here is going to change your dilution ratio. So I would recommend filling this guy up to 100 milliliters, filling up a bucket or something like that to see how much water you guys are actually spraying out of the tip of your gun before your reservoir goes empty. And that's how you guys can actually calculate out your dilution ratio that you guys are getting with your exact pressure washer. So just as a rule of thumb, the original setup that you guys are getting with this guy is 100 to 1. The extra proportioning valve and the original orifice are going to give you 60 to 1. The extra orifice and the original proportioning valve are also going to give you roughly 60 to 1. In our last combination, our extra orifice, or the larger 0.6 millimeter orifice, and the extra proportioning valve that comes with this guy, that gave you that 40 to 1 dilution ratio. So a little complicated, but once you guys know the numbers, this actually helps out a ton, because now you guys can know if you need to dilute the chemical that you guys are going to end up putting in here to get the proper dilution to come out of your foam cannon. So for instance, if you guys have a soap that's typically diluted 200 to 1 in a foam cannon, then you guys would know that you would actually want to put 50 milliliters of soap in here with 50 milliliters of water to get your correct dilution ratio coming out of the front of this gun. So knowing those dilution ratios and all that stuff is really going to help you guys get the dilution ratio correct when you guys are using different soaps and different chemicals inside of this thing. So in the real world, how does this thing actually compare to a traditional foam cannon? Now, when it comes to the actual foam that I was getting when I was using different soaps inside of this, I'm actually getting extremely good foam when it comes to a foam cannon. Even comparing this directly to my MTM Hydro foam cannon, which is honestly one of the more expensive foam cannons on the market. I think this guy's around 80 or 85 bucks. But comparing it directly to my MTM Hydro foam cannon, I'm getting just as good of foam coming out of this guy, and I love the fact that I don't need to dilute the chemical that I'm putting in here, and knowing all my dilution ratios, I know exactly how much soap I should put in here for that. So if I'm using something like Road Warrior, I can fill it with full strength Road Warrior. If I'm using one of my other soaps, then I may want to use something more like 50 milliliters of soap and 50 milliliters of water, so I can get closer to a 200 to 1 dilution ratio coming out of the front of the gun. This thing worked ridiculously good when it came to the actual foaming ability of it. The only thing that I didn't like about it was you really got to work fast with this thing, and you want to get your fan absolutely perfect when it comes to the front, this white front adjustment on here. If you have it too tight, it actually just sprays all over, all weird and crazy. But if you guys get it to the exact right spot that you need it, it really produces a really nice fan to actually foam down your vehicle with, and it works really well. And once you kind of get that dialed in, you are gonna waste less soap. But the first few times that I used this thing, I was really only getting 3/4 of the way around the vehicle before I completely ran out of chemical in here. So that was really one big downfall of using this guy, is it uses up your chemical really fast, and if it's your first few times using it, you're probably going to end up needing to refill this guy because you're just not used to how quickly you need to move with this thing, as compared to a traditional foam cannon where you have a lot more chemical, or a lot more mixed up chemical in here, and it, relatively speaking, it takes a little bit longer to use up a full tank of this stuff versus a full tank on here. So this guy, so my traditional foam cannon, I can, if I really wanted to, I could easily get 2 full cars out of this thing. But with this guy, it just really puts out the chemical quickly, and it runs through the chemical very fast. So that is one downside of using this foam cannon. But like I said, guys, the foam ability of this thing is exactly what you would expect. So I really like that about this foam cannon. So when it comes to this RealYou foam cannon, most of it is all positive. I really like this new design, and I love the fact that you don't need to dilute your chemicals, but it does does have a couple downsides. The first downside that I don't like about it is just the overall tank design. The biggest thing about the tank that I don't like is the wide mouth opening. I really think should be on this end of the tank itself. So I wish that when you unscrewed this from here, there was actually like a little adapter or something. So just really quickly, just in case RealYou's watching this right now, I wish that this didn't have these threads down here on the bottom side, or the bottom side, I guess, of the tank. I wish that these threads right here were actually built into this cap right here. So if I wanted to use the tank, I can, ignore this. This would no longer be down here on the bottom. We would only have threads up on the top of the tank. Then I could put my adapter on, or, I could fill it up through the wide side, put my adapter on. Then the adapter would have these threads right here, but on the top of here. So then I could just screw that into there. So when I wanted to refill it, I just take off the wide side, just like so, refill it, put it right back on. And bam, I'm ready to go. I flip it upside down and we're ready to spray. That would be a much better design for the tank itself on this guy. And then if you guys wanted to use your big bottle of soap, you still could use your big bottle of soap on the foam cannon the way that it normally would work. And you guys could screw on your big bottle of soap, flip it upside down, which I'm not gonna do because it leaks, but you could flip it upside down, use it like normal, flip it back to this way so it's not leaking and spraying and all that kind of stuff. But that would be an awesome design, and then you could kind of not really have this same tank. So just adjust this tank design just a little bit, put threads and make this cap an actual like little adapter kind of piece. And then you could use it both ways whenever you guys wanted, and it would make this thing a little bit more usable so that you're not trying to take this off, fill it with chemical, put the cap back on, and then you screw it in, or however you screw it onto the actual device, and then you flip it upside down, and it's leaking and all that kind of stuff. I just think if you change this tank design, it would be just a little bit nicer. So that's my only gripe with the tank design itself. But the next thing that I'm not a huge fan of on this RealYou foam cannon is the adjustments on here. Both of these adjustments are just way too loose, and I wish that they were a lot firmer. That way when you guys are storing this thing, or you put it on the shelf for a couple days, when you come back to it, it has those exact same settings, and you're not just adjusting it just by picking it up or moving it. Anytime you guys grab this thing by the front or anything like that, it's going to adjust all the adjustments on here. So the vertical and horizontal adjustment on the back here, this needs to be a lot tighter, and the adjustment for the actual spray pattern or the width of the spray pattern could also be a lot tighter. Now the third and the last issue that I actually was able to find with this new foam cannon design is once you guys have this filled up with chemical, which right now I just have it filled up with some water, but once you guys have this filled up with some chemical, and if you guys are walking around with it in its normal orientation, this orientation, it's actually going to be leaking chemical on you, which I just thought was super annoying. But it does leak chemical out of it. So depending on what chemical you have in here, how viscous that chemical is, it's really gonna start leaking a lot. And if there's water actually inside of this line right here, it seems to make it even worse. So yeah, I'm just really not a fan of the fact that this thing leaks a little bit when it's not in use. But if you flip it upside down or this way, if you wanted to store it on a table or something like that, then it's not gonna leak this way because it's not allowing that water to just drip in. So I actually almost wish that we could try something very similar to this, but instead of it being like this gravity-fed kind of system like this, I almost wish that we had one that also had a straw in here for just that traditional suction through the foam cannon. So as you guys can see, the good far outweighs the bad when it comes to this RealYou foam cannon. I'm actually really digging the design of this thing. It works really good. It's compact, produces a ton of foam, and it saves you guys from needing to dilute your chemicals when you guys are going to use your foam cannon, which is just super convenient. So I think for the few negatives that I was able to find with this thing, the fact that it does drip some drips out of the front and back of this thing, the adjustments are a little bit loose on this thing, and I wish that the overall tank was just designed a little bit differently, just allowing it to be a little bit more convenient. But for $16, I honest to God, I think that this is probably one of the best foam cannons that you guys can get on the market. It feels like a professional quality piece of detailing equipment, and I feel like it's just gonna last a really long time. It's a really simple foam cannon design. It's super easy to take apart and clean and maintenance and all of that kind of stuff, and it uses all of the same traditional orifices and filters and the little mesh foam producer thing in the front of this thing. So this thing is really a nice foam cannon for $16.99, and if you guys already have a traditional foam cannon, I would still probably recommend a traditional foam cannon first if you guys don't have a traditional foam cannon. But if you guys are looking for something for all those other chemicals that you don't typically use, typically I always have Road Warrior in my traditional foam cannon. That's my most foamed product that I use. So having something like this that I could just put a small amount of chemical in, use it for whatever I want to use it for, and then clean it out, or pour that non-diluted full strength chemical right back in my bottle. This thing is really convenient, and I really think I'm going to use it a ton for different chemicals that I'm not always using on an everyday basis. So stuff like Formula 4 spray wax that I'm really only using on certain jobs during those hot summer days, or just any other chemical. If I wanted to put something like Dark Fury in here for a pre-wash or something like that, this would be an awesome tool to use for all of those chemicals that you're really not using on an everyday basis or on an every detail basis. But I also think that this would be an awesome main foam cannon for a lot of hobbyists and for a lot of people that are just serious about detailing but might not be doing it on a professional basis. So this foam cannon, I really like the design of it. There are a few things that I would do a little bit differently if I was to come out with a foam cannon like this, and I've actually already seen a couple companies coming out with some foam cannons with a little adjustment here, and I don't know if that adjustment is for the water side or if it's for the proportioning of the actual chemical coming into here. So if this video hits 30,000 views in the first week, I'm actually going to go ahead and go out and buy another one of these that has some of the newer adjustments and stuff like that on it, and we're going to do a direct comparison and just see how much of an upgrade the ones with the dials are. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments down below if this is a foam cannon you guys have been looking to check out, and let me know how you guys like the dilution ratios that this thing comes with for the different proportioning valves that it comes with out of the box. But anyways, guys, that is the RealYou foam cannon. I would highly recommend you guys check this thing out if you guys need a foam cannon, or if you guys need a secondary foam cannon for some of those chemicals that you guys use a little less often. But anyways, guys, that is all that I have for today's video, so I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.